Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Susan Frayne with Frayne Family Chiropractic Wellness Center. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Jenni Schubring. Jenni is a life coach and speaker, and she has some great insight as to how we can get through this whole safer at home order right now with everything that's going on. So, Jenni, thank you for being with us today and sharing your expertise with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jenni.
So I am a life coach and speaker, and I'm married and have 5 kids. I'm a foster mom, so the number of kids changes regularly in our house. Um, and I do the life coaching thing, a transformational life coach. I love working with people, helping them find more about who they are and how they tick so that they can be more intentional and then bring their true selves as they work in their world.
I love that. How did you actually get into coaching? Have you been doing this for a while or something that you wanted to do for a while?
That's a really good question. It's one of those things that, life coaching wasn't really a thing that long ago, and now it's definitely picked up. I had a life coach at our church, did a thing called transformational discipleship. And part of that process, I had a coach, and I loved what she did for me. I loved the insight that she brought. And she didn't really give me a lot of advice. She just asked really powerful questions to make me know already what I knew, just didn't really know that I knew it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
And and so I shortly after that, I actually worked in a counseling agency as the receptionist. And what we were finding is that clients were coming in like 20, 30 minutes early so they could interact with me, because I would ask them questions before they went into their counseling session. And my bosses, the people I work for, were like, Jenni, you really need to get into this. And I really had no desire to go back to school to be a counselor per se, because I think there's definitely roles for both of those. I love I don't have to have all the knowledge of all the things. I just need to really know how to ask really good questions. And so that is the way that I got into it. They're the ones who encouraged me to go and do my thing. So here I am doing my thing.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you've really found your passion.
Oh, I love it. I love the interaction with people. I love being able to help the light bulb moments when I see their faces light up, like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that. Yes, I thrive on stuff like that.
So right now then, with all the, safer at home stuff, are you doing like we're doing right now? Are you doing more of the video sessions, phone calls? How does that work?
Yeah. So actually, when I started my business, some of my first clients were from a conference that I attended in Lake Geneva. So I started off very much online doing Zoom calls. And then the ironic thing is in 2020, made it a dedicated thing for myself that I'm going to do more local, and I wanted to do more in person and all of stuff. And that was really going. I was speaking and doing things, and then all of a sudden I can't. So like it's definitely has been like, okay, I guess I have to reshift my thinking again. But so I'm falling back into I shouldn't say falling back. The online space is a really good space to be in. I just really love the energy that you get from being like truly face to face. So
Absolutely. We're all feeling this. And you know that we're doing that 30-day challenge, and
mhm.
you can see how this whole safer at home has really affected your life. And what we're seeing with our challengers is that yet the whole mental aspect of this has been really quite difficult. And as we know, our emotional and mental well-being plays very much into our health, our overall health. So what kind of advice or any little tips or tricks do you have for people who are having a tough time dealing with this right now?
That is, that's a really good question. It's the question of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or- so, one of the things that I would recommend is really to get to know what your values are. So, for example, with going into this, like it was hard for me right off the bat. And I went back and looked at what I have recognized. My values are my top 2 values are relationships and freedom. And so, like, of course, like it made complete sense why it was affecting me so greatly. Because some of my friends were like, well, yeah, it stinks and whatever. It's not a huge deal. But it impacted me almost immediately, like a kick in the gut. And being able to recognize, like, well, that makes sense. That's why, because it's rubbing against my values.
Yeah.
So to be able to know your values, because where is it hitting the hardest? Just having that awareness, because now I can at least know, okay, so how can I work on my relationships, and how can I focus on the freedoms that I do have? Even it's so easy to focus on what I don't have, to be able to have that reframing of being able to recognize that, and knowing that piece of me helped me work through that. So knowing your values is a huge piece of that. And the other thing, and this was took me a lot longer to get to, so give yourself grace in the midst of this, but to recognize that other people have different values.
Mhm.
So people who like my workouts place, that they had to shut down, obviously, and their value is health. So they are taking in all the numbers, and they are taking in all the, and which was giving me a ton of anxiety. But that, and I'm like, when I was able to go, well, of course, that's what they value. They're going to get into the numbers. They are going to get into those things. And so to have grace for the people who don't have the same values as you is really, really good for our own mental health, instead of constantly like, oh, the people are making me mad when they do this or do that I don't necessarily agree with. To be able to have grace, like, they're not trying to be jerks. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, this is where I'm coming from, and to understand that other people come from different places with different values, and to have grace for that, because people really aren't trying to be jerks. Like,
Yeah, no, you're making a really great point. And I could see that difference in values playing out in the household too. You know, you've got mom, dad, you've got kids. Every single person in that household is going to be having different values. And to be able to recognize what those values are, and then be able to interact with them and understand where they're coming from. You know, they're not acting out because they're mad at you. They're acting out maybe because they're mad at the situation, because it's going against their values. That is a great point. I love it.
thank you. Yeah, it's something that, the thing is about values is that we make our decisions based on our values, whether or not we identify what our values are, like,
Mhm.
because it's in us. So being able to identify it allows us to have a better picture of where we're coming from our own self. Like, I didn't understand why I had such a bad angst over this whole thing right off the bat.
Yeah.
And once I looked at them, I'm like, oh, of course, that would make sense. So it gives you a better understanding of yourself and of others. Even if you don't know what the other people value,
Mhm.
like, to understand that it may not be what you value,
Sure.
and it's still okay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I see a lot of maybe tense interaction these days on social media, and I think we all need to
Mhm.
step back a little bit and realize that it's okay for other people to have a different opinion or a different value than you do, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person or that you're a bad person.
Right,
It's just
right,
different. Great
right.
information. Now, I think that some of the stuff you shared today is so fantastic, and I have a feeling some of our listeners are going to agree. How would they get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your life coaching and maybe just chat a little bit to help themselves work through this?
That's a great question. So first of all, my website, what is it? JenniSchubring.com is my website. And what's fun is that there is an opt-in where you can actually get a list of values that you can go through and look and see
Wow.
what you kind of walk yourself through it. Okay, this is important and that's important. That's not as important. And the idea is to come up with your top 5 to kind of narrow it down. Um, and two things about values. One is that the definition of the word is whatever definition you want it to be. So if family is one, some people be like, oh, do you want family? Or does that mean my intermediate family? Does it mean my extended family? The definition is yours. So you can make it what you want it to be. And then the other thing is to really go at it without judgment, because it's really easy to say, oh, that should be my value, but it's not. There's no judgment on your values. You go into it and just recognize what the things are important. Because if you look at the list is of 75 values, and there are way more values. So if you see something that's important to you that's not on the list, that's okay too. But you're going to be saying no to good things.
Sure.
Like there's stuff on there that's not, they can't all make it into your top 5.
Right.
So they're all really wonderful things. And so no judgment. You put the things that are important to you, because those are that's where you're coming from when you're doing your decision making, your opinions, all of that come from those things. So to be able to identify that is huge. So yeah, I would go to my website. You can book a free call on there too. So that's all over the place. So that would be the place. I'm also on Facebook, and I have a Facebook group and I have a Facebook page, so you can find me all on there too. So
that's wonderful.
I love the people thing. I love relationships. number one value,
huh?
Yeah. So bring on the people.
That's right. I love it. That is so awesome. Well, that's why you're such a perfect fit for this whole challenge as well, because it's just about people and about making sure we can come together and have that good mental, emotional health, along with the physical health and the nutrition and all that good stuff. Mental, emotional is probably one of the biggest things. So
right.
thank
and
you.
It's the one that's mostly ignored too, I think.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of pushed aside. I can see a lot of us thinking, well, I shouldn't feel this. Well, your feelings are what they are. So don't poo-poo them. They're important.
Yes.
And they're an important part of your health. So
absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Jenni, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you all out there in Facebook land for joining us too. If you want to learn more about Jenni's services, please hop on her website at jennischubring.com. I will have that website in the links down below. So give me a few minutes and I'll toss that on there for you. But thanks again, Jenni, for being a part of our wellness challenge and doing all of the wonderful things you do for our community. We'll see you next time, guys. Have a great day.